Welcome to the Tim Woolley Show. I'm Carl Zimak along with Mayor Tim Woolley. Mayor Woolley is only the 8th man to serve as mayor of the city of Taylor in its half-century plus existence. Mayor Woolley was elected on November 2nd of 2021. He took almost 51% of the vote to State Representative Alex Garza's almost 41%. Others to serve as mayor were Richard Trawley, S. Richard Marshall, Donald Zub, Cameron Preby, Gregory Petoniak, Jeffrey Lamoran, and Rick Sollers. Mayor Woolley previously served 2 4-year terms on City Council, the final 3 years as chairman. Welcome to your first show, Tim.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks for having me.
Feel good?
It does. Yeah.
You should be saying, I should be thanking you for me being on your show here.
No, over the 8 years, I've always thought you've done a great job. So there was.
Well, thank you. Same goes back the other way. Let's start in the deep end here. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
Your life is a fascinating story. Let's start back in your teens. Your family was living in Taylor. You suffered through a fatal home fire that took the life of your brother Mike.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that time period.
Well, it's going on almost 40 years.
Oh,
it's kind of crazy, but 1984 in November, my brother had just gotten out of the Navy.
Okay.
I was 14 years old, and this is one of the reasons, if you notice, during council meetings, I tell everybody usually in October or November to check the batteries in their smoke alarms. But it was very normal, everyday, average day. We all went to bed. Luckily, my dad woke up.
Okay.
And he realized something wasn't right, and he lifted up, and he could see out the window the reflection of the fire off our neighbor's car in our downstairs, and realized there was a lot of smoke. So, of course, my dad started yelling, "Fire!" Everybody get out. My first reaction was run to my bedroom door to go downstairs, to get out. As soon as I opened my door, the smoke, hit me. Yeah. And I think that's a lot of things that people don't understand, that smoke's just as hot as fire. Yeah. And I kind of even got somewhat out, and as I did, my mother pushed me back in the room because my mom came out too. My brother Michael was still downstairs. We did hear my brother Michael yell. Okay. That's the sad part about it. My brother did yell fire, and then we heard a window break. Okay. So at that time, I thought, okay, Michael got out. We have, I call him my stepbrother. He lived with us for many years where he went to school. That's the type of guy my dad was. He was my oldest brother Pat's roommate. My brother was getting married, and Wayne wanted to go back to school. My dad said, well, you come live with us, and just don't worry about rent or whatever. We always had people kind of living with us.
Gotcha.
If somebody needed a place to live, my house was. But getting back to, Wayne was luckily, he ran over, opened the window, and we had a dormer, so we were upstairs, but there was a little part of the roof to where me and Wayne got out at the front window, and then my mom and dad got out the front window, and we were able to go down, jump on our neighbor's car, and then get to safety. Well, at that point, we were there. I had dogs in the house. So I, of course, run over to the kitchen window and slide the window, and I'm yelling for my dogs, but I couldn't even stick my face in the window because the smoke was so thick. My house was really engulfed in flames at that time. Then I heard my brother's name, and I immediately started running around the backyard and stuff, and we realized that he didn't make it out. So, that was, I remember we were in my neighbor's house, because, I'm a 14-year-old kid. I'm still in my underwear. It's the middle of November. Our neighbors were taking great care of us, and then, unfortunately, we realized that Michael didn't make it out, and that was probably the most traumatic moment of my life, and still to this day, 40 years later, it's still kind of a rough thing. But over time, you kind of deal with it. I think the hardest part is my kids never got to meet him and all that stuff, and it definitely took a toll on my parents.
They know
and
about
What's that?
Do they know
Oh,
about you?
absolutely. Yeah, I
okay.
try to tell them as much. My brother Michael was next to me. You know, my
Yeah.
brother Pat was 10 years older than me. My sister
Okay.
Kelly is 8, and Michael was 6.
Right.
So me and Michael were a little close, and we fought every day. You know, I mean, that's
That's the way it is.
that's the way it was. It's growing up in the northwest corner of Taylor, being in an Irish family. You know, but you know, I miss him dearly. I still think about him, you know, every day, and laugh at many things that we used to do. And
Not that it's important now, but did you ever figure out what started fire?
it was an electrical situation.
really?
In the wall,
Okay.
yeah.
All
But
right.
one of the
Okay.
biggest problems is, you know, my mom used to burn food every so
Gotcha.
often. So
Okay.
unfortunately, batteries were taken out or just
Sure.
never replaced in the smoke alarms, and
Right.
that probably could have, you know, but.
Real life,
You know, it's just one of those things that you learn, you know, and unfortunately, but, you know, I do miss him, and my son's middle name is Michael, so one of them. You know.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I hear you. You went through Taylor schools.
Yes.
All the way through.
Yeah.
Which schools, and what do you remember about those times?
Well, I started out in Treadwell Elementary. Great times. I loved my neighborhood. I wouldn't change it in the world, or for the world. Lots of friends, lots of kids. You know, I always tell my kids that, you know, we literally waited in line at the sidewalk on Halloween to get to the door. But growing up in Treadwell, I have nothing but great experiences. You know, it was. We always had a horrible basketball team. I think we might have got one in my 4th, 5th, and 6th year, you know, being able to play. From there, I went to Hoover.
Okay.
Quite the opposite. We had a great basketball team at Hoover. You know, 7th grade, we were pretty dominant. West used to give us a run for our money because they had Steve Avery and Chris Donahue, and they had a good little core, but we were really solid. But Hoover was another great school. Mr. Grissinger was the principal. Real, you know, ran a tight ship, but he was a good guy. But if you messed up, boy, he'd get you in a minute. So met a lot of great people over the years there. Really enjoyed my time. I was at Hoover when I experienced the loss of Mike and the fire. To see the community and the schools rally around my family during that time, it still sticks with me today. And I think that's part of the thing that always has made me want to give back to my community.
Well, downriver is that way.
Yes,
you see a lot
I
of
agree.
rallies,
I say it all the time.
Taylor takes its hits publicly,
Yeah.
but it is a really bootstrap community, grassroots. Pull your bootstraps up.
Yep.
You know, people will spend time to help you out.
Yes,
You know,
and even if there's a, you know, you know, over the time, people set things aside and will focus on, you know, and I've said that, and I learned that at 14 years old. I mean, I saw, you know, I had, you know, I played Little League football and baseball, and I had parents just coming, and, you know, I'll never forget this, and I still remember it. One of a guy I played Little League football with, his mom saw me walking home from school and picked me up and said, "Hey, I want to take you to the mall and buy you some," you know, because everything I had, I lost everything pretty much, all my clothes and everything. So I was wearing my neighbor's, you know, he was older than me, you know, and stuff. So I had some baggy clothes on. The car, I didn't miss much school because it was a sad situation, and seeing my mom going through, because my mom got burnt too. You know, so you know, I got a little bit on my back, but my mom's hands, because she started to go down, you know, go down the stairs, and the flames were coming up. So to see the pain and the, you know, I couldn't be around that too much, you know, and people were constantly, we were staying with my neighbors across the street, and people were always coming over, you know, of course, you know, to give their condolences and stuff. And as a 14-year-old kid, it got to be much. I needed to be with my friends. So it was kind of, you know, I know it was kind of awkward. I only missed like 2 days of school, and the school was doing a fundraiser for my family. So like when I came to school, it kind of everybody, so they had to kind of change everything I learned and stuff. But you know, those were the type of things that the community did, and you know, it was awesome.
That's kind of amazing. I don't think anybody can get a feel for that unless they really
go
through
you
it.
know. And so I did go through that my my 9th grade year. Then I ended up going to Taylor Center. My class was when they brought the freshman class back to high school. So I went in as a sophomore, but there was a freshman class that went to Taylor Center with us. Taylor Center is definitely some of the best memories I have. I met my wife there, but the friends, we're still very close. The class of 1988 are still very close. We have great turnouts at our reunions. We still get together from time to time, but Taylor Center was just an incredible place for me. I would definitely go back in a minute.
Who are some of the names that you remember from back then?
Like as far as teachers or
No,
just
as far as
friends?
any of them. Teachers,
well, you know,
students,
definitely Mr. Maynard was one of my favorite. Mr. DeBoll, Mr. Strauss, definitely. Me and Mr. Strauss are still friends, you know.
Okay.
Every time I go out to VA Ann Arbor, he lives in Ann Arbor, and I go and visit him. And so, I mean, definitely a lot of positive teachers, and then just, you know, some of my best friends, Steve Seeley, Frank Lucas, you know. I lost one in the, at the cruise. That was a good friend of mine, Al Kennedy.
Really? Yeah, that's right.
A couple of years ago.
Okay.
Al was, we went on spring break together and stuff. So, just a really tight class. We still, it's good. I'm very happy.
That's fantastic.
They're great people, and
And
they've all went on to do great things too. So.
And you met the key person in your life there.
Yes, senior year.
How did you ever lasso that young lady?
It's kind of funny because Amy and I knew each other, but didn't really know each other well. And what's kind of funny, knowing me, Amy won most shyest in high school. So, me being kind of the loud, outspoken guy and stuff. Yeah, I guess, So one day I just kind of, was looking and, wow, that's a good looking girl right there, and started the conversation. And I'd say within a few months, I probably knew she was going to be the one I married.
Well, that's neat. Yeah. That's real.
I don't know if she felt that. I mean, 30 years later, here we are.
I hear you. I hear you. Still going strong.
September was 30 years.
Boy, that's fantastic. Once you got out of high school, you eventually faced a decision between college, the job market, the military. And the military, I don't think, was your first option.
No.
Tell us about that.
Okay, well, when I was getting ready to graduate, I really thought, okay, what do I want to do? And I always wanted to be a teacher. Biology, I love science.
Okay.
I really like archaeology as well.
Really?
I'm really kind of a crazy, I'm really into Egyptology and stuff, I love that type of stuff. A little bit of explorer in me,
Okay.
And so I decided, I was going to go to Henry Ford, but I had just met Amy. So, I found myself wanting to spend a little more time with her. And the biggest mistake I made was I had the mindset of, okay, I didn't like algebra. And as you can probably tell, English wasn't my favorite, subject as well. So I said, I'm going to start out with 2 classes, and I took algebra and like an English class.
Okay.
And it basically, meeting Amy, having classes that I did not like at all, just was not the best, looking back at it, like, what were you thinking, Should have took something that, made me like it a little more and stuff.
Sure.
So I ended up dropping the classes, and I actually had one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. I worked in Taylortown, and it was a new place. It was called Livonia Tackle of Taylor.
Oh, okay.
So there was a Livonia tackle store in Livonia, and they expanded to Taylor in Taylortown, where I was working for ACO. Well, I went to work there, and it was hunting and fishing supplies. So I got to talk hunting and fishing all day. The only problem was I was making $5 an hour. I knew I wanted to marry Amy, and I was living with my dad as an 18-year-old, and so that was becoming a little bit of an issue. And finally, I just said, you need to,
make a move.
Get your stuff together and make a move. And I went and talked to a recruiter. I'll never forget, I walked in the recruiter's office, and everybody just kind of looked at me, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about joining the Army. And it was like a mad rush, back then, they had to have, so many people join and stuff. And I ended up, my recruiter was Sergeant Jackson, and I told him, I'm thinking about it, don't call me, I'll get a hold of you. And and that started the conversation. Unfortunately, I kept that away from my girlfriend at the time. So when I pulled the trigger and I signed up for the Army for 4 years, and I told her, of course, she was not very happy with me. So
Well, I was going to say, you end up a young guy in Fort Hood, Texas, with the girl of your dreams sitting back home. Now, how do you balance that out?
Well, that was one of the things, and that's what I think she was a little afraid of, But I think the good thing was you know, I try to get home every 3 to 4 months. I was really good at figuring out how to arrive at an airport early that usually overbooks flights and just sit back and maybe drift over to the bar for a little bit and then come back and, hey, we're offering $300 for anybody that takes the next plane. So I accumulated, I'd never hardly paid for a plane ticket.
Really?
And I was able to come home for like 4-day passes, and then I would take leave, you know, usually around the holidays and maybe during the summer and stuff. And then once in a while she would fly down. But I found it's kind of crazy. I found it was easier for me to go home and leave than when she came and visited me and she had to leave.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I
Really?
don't know, that kind of bothered me a little more. So, but we made it work, and you know, and then of course, Desert Shield, Desert Storm
Yes.
popped up. You know,
Yeah, exactly. Tell us about your military experience. You end up being really good at what you got into.
Yes, absolutely. I was. I signed up. You know, my recruiter asked me, you know, do you want to go in for? What do you want to go in for?
Okay.
And I said, well, I want to go in for the adventure. I need to, you know, just get my life together a little bit and grow up some. And you know, I told you the story. I didn't necessarily know how to use a washing machine when I got. You know, my mom did spoil me there, I would say. You know, other than that, but. You know, I went into artillery, and my actual job title was a fire support specialist, but everybody knew us as forward observers.
Okay.
So we were usually attached to an armored cav regiment or an infantry unit.
Okay.
You know, so you were, depend on the luck of the draw, you were either a ground pounder or you got mechanized. I got lucky, I got mechanized, so I got a ride everywhere I got to
Gotcha.
go. So
Okay.
our job as a forward observer is basically, you know, I was attached to a division scout element, and what I was with, well, when I went to Desert Storm, I was with 1st Cav, but I was with 2nd Armored Division at Fort Hood. And basically what we do is we go up, and the general wants to move the division here, and we go up and, you know, kind of search things out a little
Gotcha.
bit. I'm their artillery link. So a tank sees what it's shooting at to where artillery lofts.
Right.
So it's my job to see the target, figure out where the target is on a grid map, and we also have lasers on our vehicles, which makes it a lot easier, and call in the artillery to that location, and then adjust it to where it's maximizing its target.
Now, you had told me in a previous conversation when we were talking about this, how that whole area had changed over the course of time, because it used to be that, what was it, lieutenants and stuff like that called those kind of things in. They weren't quite as good as it.
It wasn't a specialty job.
Right.
So basically, a fire support specialist did not exist until after Vietnam, because most of the people that called in artillery were brand new lieutenants, and unfortunately they would call artillery in on themselves, or, you know, call it in on the wrong place, and it caused, you know, unfortunately, a lot of deaths, unnecessary deaths. Just because one thing about artillery, if you don't know where you're at, it's hard to call it in.
Right.
So it's you know, they made it an actual specialty, and I think it was like a 10-week course that I went through for my schooling, and so that really always resonated with me, because I learned that when we went to our AIT, they call it, and so the last thing I wanted to ever do was call artillery in on my troops, my own troops, and myself. You know, so I always took my job very seriously, and I was good at it.
Well, you were telling me that you were more than just good at it. You taught it.
Yes.
Afterwards, things like that.
So at Fort Hood, they have a simulator, which is a building which basically it's got a giant movie screen in there, and you can pull up different areas of the world. You know, so you know, like a town in Germany and stuff, and then all of a sudden a little tank would pop up like in something, and you actually had a map to scale in front of you, so people would learn. And what I would do is teach, you know, helicopter pilots. We had the Apache Training Brigade at Fort Hood. I would have Air Force pilots come in from Austin, Texas. I would have, you know, Bradley drive, you know, and infantry guys. So I taught them how to properly call in artillery. And it was kind of nice because it was an air-conditioned building. in Fort Hood, Texas, it's pretty hot down there.
I was
so
going to say
it was nice to get out of the motor pool a couple days a week. And, you know, I got citations for it and stuff. And so it was nice. And I was glad I could pass my knowledge on.
You could have been a lifer.
I thought I was going to be, and I think everybody did too. If you had my Army buddies sitting right here, they used to call me lifer all the time, you know. And I will say that when I decided to get out, it kind of, a lot of people kind of went, what, you know, because when we got back from Desert Storm, they downsized the military, so I actually got out in 3 years instead of 4.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were also telling me that when you guys, after Desert Storm, or as that came to an end, you basically, you guys who were there, you knew that it wasn't, it was over, but it wasn't over.
Right, you know, and I think that's kind of, you know, looking in hindsight, if I'd known it was going to be 10 years before we would have went back over there, I would have probably stayed in.
Okay.
But when we came back, we figured, okay, we're going to be over there in another year. At least, because Saddam was still in power.
Right.
You know, and we knew, we did a great job over there, and we definitely took out their equipment. You know, even if people surrendered, we destroyed their equipment. I mean, to the littlest, you know. I saw some pretty cool explosions. The EOD guys didn't have a problem with, you know, but General Schwarzkopf, General Powell is definitely two people that I have the utmost respect for, because
Paul just passed away.
Yes, absolutely, and that actually bothered me, because I fought under him, and great leaders, and they knew what they were doing. And I give President George Bush credit for allowing generals to run that war.
Yeah, without a doubt. And George Bush Sr. was old school.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, he
that's
was former
one of the
military.
reasons why he stopped.
Yeah, he was former military.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
was like, hey, we've accomplished this with these allies. We all agreed to do this. We're going to stop. And a lot of people like you on the ground said, well, Saddam Hussein's still there.
Well, and a lot of people, I can tell you this, that we were right outside of Baghdad, and a lot of people blame George Bush for that. And it was really the UN.
Okay.
The UN said, hey, you guys took care of the military part of it. We'll take care of Saddam.
Right.
And, you know, so that was,
interesting.
you know.
Interesting time period. When you were weighing the benefits of staying in versus getting out, what was your thought process?
Well, I made rank really quick, so I would have definitely been on, I think, the right track as far as, you know, my points basically fell at 3 years to where I would have been pinned an E5 within another month or two if I had stayed in. Part of me wishes I would have stayed in just to get that, you know. But I missed Michigan. I really did. I loved Texas. The people there were great. The outdoors, the food, you know, I loved everything about Texas. It was just so hot. You know, it really was.
You never stopped sweating.
And, you know, I'm a Michigan boy, and, you know, I love my outdoors. I love green trees. I love tall trees. You know, they call, they look like bushes to me. They call them trees down there, you know. So, but, you know, I think me and Amy were both ready to come back, and, you know, war really wakes you up to mortality. You know, I always made the joke when me and Amy got engaged while I was in basic training, and you know, I kind of always had the game plan, well, I'll be 25 when we get married. Well, when I got back from Desert Storm, I wanted to get married, and I was 21 at that time.
And
because,
it was enough.
Yeah, you know, you realize, hey, you know, it could be my day any day, you know, and so I wanted to start a family.
I hear you.
Know?
I hear you. Tell us about the jobs after the military that you had.
Well, when I first got out, I worked construction with my a friend of mine that I grew up with. Funny story, we used to have a little kid that used to come in the summer times and help us, and he actually owns J.P. McGuire's. Jason McGuire worked with us, and so started out there, and then those were, the thing I loved about construction is when you walked away from a project, boom, there's a house, you know, and but it was just kind of crazier hours and stuff. I wanted something a little more structured. And then I ended up getting my CDL to drive, and I ended up going to work for a company called Cater Air, which drove the trucks up and the ones that lift up and put the food on the plane. So I did that for about a year. Met some cool celebrities. Worked in some extremely cold conditions out there in the wintertime, you know, and then from there, I always, you know, I wanted to join, my friend of mine worked for Airborne Express at the time. They paid good, it was a good union position, you know, longevity, everything like that. So that was my goal, to get in there, and when I got the job at Cater Air, probably about 8 months later, I ended up getting a call from Airborne. Started out there in '94, and worked there, was a Teamster 299. Probably after about 6 months, they said, hey, you need to be a committee man, you know, because, you know, I didn't have a problem, you know, and I wasn't, you know, one of these rebel rousers. I was just, if something wasn't right, I would just say, hey, that's not right. You can't do that, you know, and stuff. And
we were going over this the other day. You're not scared to lead.
No.
You don't.
No.
You're just. It doesn't phase you.
No. It's you know, I'm not afraid to make a tough decision.
Right.
And I know every time you make a decision or a vote, not everybody's going to like it.
Right.
You know, so you know, that's never been a fear of mine. You know, I think about it. You know, and but. So they kind of brought me in under their wing and stuff, and had a great relationship with management. Though that was the thing I loved about our place. It was teamwork. They knew if management knew if I came in there with an issue, it was legit. You know, but they could also come to me and say, "Hey Tim, we're having a problem with this person," and I would go to that person and say, "Look, man, you know, you got to get it together," and honesty, you know, and just conversation and stuff. Worked there. We ended up getting bought out by DHL. And everything was going great. And then, you know, I had about 16, 17 years in there. And then there was 410 of us on the seniority list. And that was divided amongst, we called it Detroit, but they were out of Romulus. And then we had a Troy station. And then we were in Southfield station. And there was 410 total of us. One day we had a meeting and DHL just said, hey, we're getting out of, we're only going to international only.
Okay.
And I knew the writing was on the wall right at that point, and unfortunately 390 people lost their jobs. I lost mine at the end of '08, about 10 days before Christmas.
Wow.
So,
jeez.
Yeah. And I think the toughest part is, you know, when you're doing express delivery, it takes its toll on your body. You know, my doctors always tease. I got, you know, just jumping in and out of the truck, my knees, he's like, you're going to need new knees, but when you get older. But, you know, I think the hardest part is we were all young. We all hired in together. We started having our families together and stuff. So it was kind of like a divorce, you know, where, you know, luckily we still stay in touch. That is the one good thing about social media. Yeah. You know, we keep track on each other and stuff. And, of course, they were all very supportive of me when, you know, running for this position and stuff.
Sure,
and
exactly.
So, yeah, we still have get-togethers from time to time. And but, you know, it was definitely a life-altering event because nobody really saw it coming. You know, I was 41 or 42, and to start over with a new career at that time, it was really scary. You know, and but luckily we were able to make it work. You know, and definitely had to work to pay our bills. And we had just bought our new house, you know, over on Champaign from our last one. We almost moved out to Brighton at that time, and it was a blessing that we didn't, because I would have lost that house. No ifs, ands, buts about it. So, but. Over the time from there, I went to work for my brother after that, so I was in sales for a few years, but being in sales around that time was really tough, and I felt like I wasn't, I loved it, and I think I was good at it. It's just I wasn't making any sales because nobody was really buying anything at that time, and I just didn't I felt like I was taking money from my brother without providing, so I ended up looking and finding something else, and I went to work for Roush at that time. Went to Roush for a little while, and then I you know, ran for council when I was at Roush, and then over time I made my way over to, I thought I was done with transportation. I wanted to get out of it, and I happened to go down to I got a call from Liz from the VFW and said, hey, we got this company looking for veterans that's maybe a driving position. I'm like, well, what is it, you know? Made a phone call and got that conversation going, sent some emails, and I started working at Senior Alliance, which is where I left to come here, but it was one of the best jobs I ever had in my life. I was a little hesitant about it because my job was basically taking senior citizens to and from their medical appointments. But as I started doing it, I grew to love my clients, and you get to know them, you know, and you know their grandkids' names and everything, and great experience, and I loved every minute of it.
Well, not only that, I know you've told me, you swear by Senior Alliance as an organization.
Oh, 100%. I mean, everybody, you know, there's, you know, I hired in there. I didn't, it was one of those things, you know, everybody made the comment, you know, me and Angie went and worked together, so, you know, all this other stuff. I did not make much money. And anybody know, with my experience, I could have made a lot more money driving somewhere else. I just wanted to do something, and I started out as part-time there, you know, and I was okay with that. That's what I wanted. And but over time, I'd never seen a company listen to their employees, take advice, and just, it was insane. I was never experienced. And then the driving, I actually enjoyed getting up and going to work, you know, and it had been a long time, maybe since the Livonia tackle days, you know, since I had had that. So it was a little tough to, you know, but they were so great. You know, I
Right.
explained to them early on in the year
Right.
that, hey guys, I'm going to pursue running for mayor, and all of them were
Right.
nothing but supportive. It was all, you know, we would hate to lose you, but we know you would do great things, and they were nothing but supportive when I was elected.
And those are the people that you love working for.
Absolutely, you know,
they care about
you know, and there was a situation because the quick turnaround here, you know, you get elected on Tuesday, you start on Monday.
Yeah.
Luckily, they took is the fact that I told them many months ago that I was running for office as my 2 weeks notice because
Right.
you know I had vacation days and sick days, and so it was a great experience, and I still look forward. And as a city, we do, you know, things with the Senior Alliance, and I can tell you this: working at the Senior Alliance, the city of Taylor benefits from them.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, at this point, that brings us up to speed on how you got to be the person you are right now, and brings us up to the mayor's role. Earlier today, we had a chance to speak with two new appointees, Chief of Staff Dan Bazura and DPW Director Ralph Richard. Let's go to that conversation now. Okay, two key additions to Mayor Tim Woolley's staff are Dan Bazura, city's new Chief of Staff, and Ralph Richard, the new Director of the DPW. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Mayor, let's start with you. Let's start with Dan. Okay, what was your thought process in bringing Dan on board?
Well, like I was fortunate to serve with Dan on City Council for 8 years, and over that time I got to know him personally. I think trust is the biggest thing that comes to mind. You know, when we first came in on council, we were brand new. I did not know Dan. I knew his dad from the Little League World Series, of course. And just through communications over the years, a trust really built, a bond of friendship, so to speak. And at the end of the day, I just thought Dan was the perfect person because he's great with reasoning with people. He's a great listener, and he's a great communicator. So to me, I think those are essential in a chief of staff position.
Early on, you guys survived each other?
Definitely.
First couple weeks for a little, you know, but you know that's what builds trust. You know.
Dan, tell us about your own background.
Graduated from Albion College, had degrees in economics and management as well as communication. Immediately out of school, took a job in banking, retail banking, primarily management-related positions. You get in that industry, you learn it from the ground up, teller, general teller, assistant manager, manager, and it really gives you an idea on how functions operate and what it takes to lead people by actually putting yourself in their position. And I think that management experience that I spent 25 years doing is going to bode real well for me working with Mayor Woolley, with other electeds, and with the great employees of the city of Taylor.
Oh, that's fantastic. I know a lot of people come in to, especially at chief of staff positions, whether it's chief of staff or director or whatever, with that kind of municipal experience background. Do you see that as a hindrance, or do you see it maybe as a positive?
I don't. Knowing that we both had 8 years under our belt as city council people, I think works to our advantage, but have always proudly said I'm not a politician. Politics to me is not necessary to have good communication skills, to be a good leader. And really what we're trying to accomplish is to give our residents the type of leadership they want and the type of leadership they deserve. And I think that the three of us are definitely going to be able to make that delivery and that commitment to our residents.
Mayor, let's shift to Ralph. What were you looking for bringing back Ralph? I know he flipped me a tick point for his resume, I think with a smile on his face, and he basically showed me he's held literally every position in the DPW.
Well, that's the thing, Carl, and I'm big on experience. You know, I know people that have all the degrees in the world, and you know sometimes, but I also think hands-on experience is crucial. Over the 8 years, the one thing I've always been the type of person that every time I walk into City Hall these past 8 years, I might have, you know, sweatpants on and a hoodie. I make that joke all the time, but I'm always evaluating. And one of the things over those years, I used to ask people questions a lot, and I used to always bring up DPW, and I would always throw out, well, who do you think is the most knowledgeable person in the DPW? And I would ask so many people that, and there was always one answer, and it was Ralph Richards. every single time, and it didn't matter who I asked. I mean, from the highest to the lowest. So it was one of those things that I was thinking that, and the other thing that I think is a really crucial, important part, he lives in Taylor. He can literally open his front door and see what the weather is in Taylor. And that's crucial in a snowstorm, because if people, it's not a necessity, but if people live quite a ways away that drive into work, they open their door, the weather might be different in that area than right here. So Ralph is right here. He's got all the experience in the world, 20 plus years working in the city. I'm very proud of this. I was glad that he was willing to join the team as well.
Ralph, you were telling me on Friday when we were conversing at the staff party about the influence that Jim Boardman had on you. Can you?
Oh, without a doubt. He's even before I started working for the city, he was a friend of mine, and actually on a side note, he was the first phone call I made. Once I got my promotion and it was official, he was the first one. He was obviously excited. He still keeps an eye out on the city. He's definitely always watching, but he kind of took myself and Madam Clerk Sydney Bauer and at the time Superintendent Gene Smith, that took us under his wings and kind of spread his knowledge amongst all the three of us, knowing that his reign was coming to an end, and it's you can't even put a price tag on, and then the knowledge he gave me and the confidence, to do the day-to-day operations, of a DPW, it could be quite encumbersome, but he kind of put me at ease to take on this venture.
Now, at one point, you stepped out of management, went back in the workforce. You eventually retired, and now you're kind of circling back in the top job. Is it tough to go back in the top job after you've basically been working side by side with the guys?
Yes and no. I mean, it's as far as the day-to-day operations in the field, that's just common knowledge. I was a foreman in the water department for 8 years and a general foreman in the highway department for 5 years. So, as far as the day-to-day operations, that's come pretty easy to me now. When you go up front, and we did dabble with Boardman with the budgets and whatnot, but just dealing with that aspect is more of a learning curve. I'm finally starting to get my sea legs underneath me, but that part was a little tougher. But I think the biggest thing I bring, the employees, the morale of the employees are just, I think, off the charts right now, and they understand that everything that they do, I've done. I'm not going to ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do myself, and if need be, I'll go do it myself. I still have my CDL, so you might see me in a plow truck if need be. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I got no problem grabbing a shovel, and I think it even proved it. When I was in supervision and I went back to the workforce, we always use the saying that we can hand over the keys, and I proved that I did. I didn't. I could go back and do the day-to-day work. So I think they all appreciate me. At least that's what they tell me.
I don't. Yeah, reading your resume, I can understand why they would. Dan, priorities right now, what are you looking at here for 3 to 6 months out? What are your priorities?
Well, teamwork. I think Mayor Woolley has been preaching teamwork since day one, and leadership. I mentioned earlier giving residents the leadership they want and what they deserve. I think that's huge for us, and to restore that trust in city government, to be the leaders that our city needs, and to continue to move the city forward, our top priorities.
Tim, you mentioned the black cloud several times. I mean, it's unavoidable to talk about it at least. Is that, you see that move, you see that dissipating?
I do.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it does seem like over time it's definitely, the conversation has changed, and and that's the goal. That's what we wanted. We want to, like Dan said, we want to continue the city moving forward and in more of a positive light, and we're working hard to do that. Definitely.
Ralph, what about you? Priorities?
My main thing is stability and structure, right? It just seems like we're looking to add some more staffing. That's obviously been, even with the public, that's been a big, crossroads for people. But if without stability and structure, you can give me all the people in the world, and it still will, run amok. And it just seems as if we've been putting out fires, and hopefully, we get them fires out and get some stability, for our day-to-day operations, and it'll better serve the community.
Tim, you got anything to add?
No, I just want to say, we've been in just a little over a month, and I've never second-guessed, my choices on these positions. I'm very happy. I think they're doing a phenomenal job already, and I'm very excited, and we're progressing. Ralph used the word, we're getting our sea legs under us. It's definitely a schedule, adjustment, and I had no idea prior to this how often a DPW director, he's probably in as many meetings, if not more than I am, with all the different departments in a DPW, the DUAs and the garbage. It's a lot, and he's doing a phenomenal job, and Danny has been great from the day he walked in here. So I'm very happy, very, very happy.
Well, good luck to both you guys, and thank you for coming on the show. We're going to let you guys go, and we're going to resume back with the mayor very shortly. Okay, we just did the Dan Bazura and Ralph Richard. Those are two good picks.
I'm very happy with them. I mean, Carl, I really thought this out when I decided to run. Dan was definitely, I reached out to him early on and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, but I need you to be a part of this.
Well, you had a real special relationship there.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I
mean,
it is. Two guys that didn't know each other.
Right. And who
literally
didn't agree on much.
No, and it was funny because my wife was even laughing. She's like, man, you seem to be mellow, or whatever. I said, because me and Bazura, argue all day at City Hall, and that was in the first month or two. But the one great thing was we created a bond and a trust. That was the biggest thing where, Dan is always the guy, even on council, would say, hey, let's just talk about it.
Yeah.
It's okay to disagree with one another, but let's talk about it.
Right.
And that was the great thing. And I think what really helped mine and Dan's relationship as far as council members, we could have a discussion and every now and then it'd be like, you got a point there.
Yeah.
And it would flip your idea somewhat. Right. And he would do that to me and I would do that to him. And we both definitely had our strong points because when I came on the council, budgets was foreign to me.
Right, I hear you.
And Danny's banking background, I'm not afraid to say I don't know something.
Right.
And I walked into Dan and said, okay, you're a banker, kind of put this in human terms for me a little bit.
Well, Dan,
and he really helped me there. And then I helped him with the contractual stuff and all that,
Right,
so
exactly.
we relied on each other's strengths.
Right. And your union background really does help you in the city.
I think so.
Because there's so many unions
it does,
involved here.
Yes.
Without a doubt. At least you understand the thought process and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Dan is a rather special individual.
I think so. He
doesn't like to
no, he's a saw. You can see. He was
Mm-hmm.
kicking and screaming about coming in here and doing this. But he's a very I'd say private person, but he's a great communicator.
Right.
Very intelligent. Just wants to have a good conversation. It's okay to disagree.
Right.
Sometimes he'd get the reputation of being. He's the nicest guy you ever met in your life. If you really got to know Dan, he's a really great guy. But he's not afraid to say, "Hey, listen, I don't think this is right." Or, if you come in attack mode, at least have the facts to back up. So I think Dan is a great individual. I'm glad I met him 8 years ago, and I'm even more happier that he decided to be a part of this.
And Ralph is just a good fit.
Oh, absolutely.
He's just
in my opinion. Again, a lot of people think me and Ralph has known each other forever. I mean, through the Little League, of course, we knew each other a little bit, but as I explained in their piece, that Carl, I always ask questions. I'm always evaluating, and it was amazing. I mean, who do you think?
They all come back to
every
Ralph.
Single person. And I was a big fan of Boardman as our DPW director. I actually grew up down the street from the Boardmans. Jim was much older, so I think he was out of the house by the time I was around. But his dad, a former firefighter, used to sit on the porch, and I'd always wave and say hi to him. Great choice there too. I'm very happy. I'm very happy with those two people.
The cool thing about Ralph is, like you said, you go to employees now, and they all swear by Ralph. Okay, they all bring up Ralph, and it's understandable.
He's walked the walk.
And and you go to Ralph, and he brings up Boardman. So you have that direct tie back to who a lot of people think is, the golden, golden version.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim Boardman is a Hall of Famer. We named a park after him.
Right, exactly.
In my neighborhood.
And when you look, I think Ralph's going to be the same way.
Yeah, I mean, Ralph is he's explained things to me that I knew. We talked during the campaign a little bit, and every time we had a conversation, I walked away going, this guy knows his stuff.
Right.
Really does know his stuff. Right. And he's been great as far as being able to jump in and take over the ship. And like I said, I wasn't aware of how demanding a DPW director's time is too. It's similar to the mayor. I mean, it's he's in meetings. I'm seeing all this stuff that luckily I don't have to go to some of them. He does, but we kind of convey. But I'm going to some of them just to learn the process and meet people and stuff. But Ralph is doing a great job. He's got Matt down there to really help him. And then I think the employees, at least, it's one of those things, even if not everybody likes him, I think they respect him because he's been there. Yeah. And like he said, he's not going to ask anybody to do something that he hasn't done.
I hear you. You've been on the job for a few weeks now.
Yeah, a little over a month.
Biggest adjustment? What do you think?
I think managing my time.
Okay.
I know it's a demanding position. I knew there would be, I knew it'd be long hours, and it is. I mean, average day is 10, and some days you have those 12, 14-hour days. Sure. And I'm okay with that. And Saturdays, I'm in here trying to catch up on some of my emails and everything. But it's being able to manage my time with meetings. Okay. A lot of people want to meet with the mayor. So I have kind of, if you noticed, our doors open in the mayor's office. So, I tell, the assistants that, if somebody comes in and wants to talk to me, let me know. If I'm available, I'm going to go talk to them. And I've done that with residents, and they're in shock. So I'm trying to do that. Moving into the new year, I'm going to look at maybe scheduling time allotments for that to get that, meet with the mayor type thing. Sure. And but I think it's a matter of, as you know, every meeting runs long.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, now I'm getting a little more assertive. Like, okay, guys, got a 1 o'clock coming up. We got to move out. And so it's just basically managing my time and not overbooking myself.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because when people are in meetings with the mayor, it may be 15, a half an hour long. Okay, that's 15 and a half an hour long to them.
Yes.
When you're in 8 different meetings like that, that's hours of time.
Well, and you were a part of that conversation. I'm a punctual guy.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like I don't want to make people wait for me. And one of the staff meetings, I said, hey, listen, if I call 11 o'clock, I'm going to be here at 11 o'clock.
Get here.
So
Vince Lombardi time.
Yeah, it's a little, I just, it makes it easier for everybody if everybody's somewhat on time, and there's always, situations. But
I hear you. Now, between your election campaign, when you went door to door endlessly and listened to thousands of residents, and the fact that you've made it a goal to meet with employees and listen to them. Yeah. What's your top takeaways?
Well, I can tell you this: knocking doors. It's the simplest thing. It really is. Public safety is number one.
Right.
People want to feel safe.
Right.
If they call 911, they want the fire to come or they want the police to come. Now, our numbers are low, so that's something we're definitely addressing. If somebody's playing loud music, that's not a priority as much as a a fight or a domestic and stuff like that. So unfortunately, there's still that little bit of a situation. Luckily, our fire department's numbers are getting back up. But police, we really, it's getting scary.
And that's one of those things. When you look at police, it's not just a Taylor problem.
No.
It's essentially a national
and that's
problem.
what it is. You have cities in competition with one another, and they're literally almost going as far as trying to poach your people if they can do it. So we're talking with Chief Blair and the unions over there to kind of see how we can continue to help that thing. But it's simple. Public safety. People want their streets swept. They want their streets plowed and salted, and they want their garbage picked up on time. Yeah. And it was kind of funny. We did make a change in the garbage situation, and the new company was saying, we really want to help out with the community. We want to give the little leagues. We want to give I said, listen, That's great.
Yeah.
Just pick the garbage up
Just
on
pick
time.
the garbage up.
Pick
yeah.
it up
yeah.
on time. That's what people want, you know, and I will say that things seem to be going a lot better.
Yeah, your
you
early
know, I mean,
takeaway
there's
is
a
good.
few, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there's a transition period,
Right.
you know, and we're getting through that, but I think I'm getting a lot of good feedback from the residents, which
Well,
is
that's
good.
good. That's
But
good.
it's really the simple things like that, and then, you know, the park improvements, the roads improvements, that's icing on the cake. Residents want the simple things they feel like they're paying for.
Right.
You know, and I agree with them. Because Carl, like I tell everybody, I'm a tax-paying
You're a
resident just
taxpayer,
like
yeah,
everybody
exactly,
else.
exactly.
You know, so you know, meeting the residents and stuff and hearing what they have to say, it's vital. You know, and a lot of good ideas out there, a lot of good you know questions and stuff. So it was nice, and I say this every time. It's sad that it takes me every 4 years to get out there, but I still talk to people throughout the year,
yeah.
and I'm approachable. I
Right.
get a lot of emails and stuff. And,
Exactly.
so, but it is nice to get that consensus of, you know, everybody wants those things, especially, you know.
Now, over the last 8 years, you were extremely supportive of the prior administration's
Yes.
agenda, for the most part.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody has disagreements. What do you feel solid on moving forward off of that old agenda? I mean, when it comes to programs and things like that that have been in place.
Yeah, good to great is definitely something we're going to continue. I think that was a good thing. We're looking at possibly, you know, this budget year, we're going to try to, you know, we keep saying boots on the ground. We want to get a little more people down there that way, because when you're doing the good to get great, everybody's in that neighborhood.
Right.
So we want to get a few more to where, you know, there's still things going on around in the out, you know.
Stuff
so,
never
you know,
stops.
yeah, exactly. So we do want to maybe kind of try to get another crew to where we have our good to great model continuing, but we also have some people that can go and do, you know, like if a tree limb's, you know, fallen or something like that. We're not taking people out of the good to great. So that's one of those things. And we're looking at maybe starting to do some more things in-house, you know. So, you know, a crew and a half would definitely benefit that. You know, we're going to move forward with Fletcher Park with some improvements down there. As you know, I wasn't in favor of that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but
I mean, that
you
was
know
one
what?
of
I
those.
was on
Yeah.
the losing end, and it is now a park, so we're going to do what we can to enhance it. In my opinion, there's not much we can do until we get a parking lot over there.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. There's a few grants there. We're, you know, I think we're getting a DNR grant, so we're going to look at putting some things down there. One of the things I campaigned about is, I do believe that Heritage Park is our marquee park, and I've always thought that we should have a special needs playground there.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to meet with a couple people just to kind of idea, because it's special equipment, you know, so, you know, that's something we're maybe putting it by the splash pad where it can be more monitored. But I don't also want to segregate. You know what I'm saying? I want, so I'm going to kind of create a little group or committee of people that either have special needs or handicap, and get some ideas from them, because I want to do it right.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah, and I think, you know, from what I understand, Wyandotte has a really nice one, and then I'm going to take a ride over there and check that out. And then also kind of light that back part up a little bit. You know, some lighting. You know, one of the things we're looking at too, and Guido's done a great job, is getting some more cameras in all of our parks, you know, especially Heritage Park, Northwest Park, our bigger parks.
Right.
You know, so video surveillance is definitely a big thing. And, you know, it'll help us on the vandalism and stuff. And so those
Cameras
are
can
things.
be a big deterrent.
They can, absolutely.
Not only a big help, but a big deterrent.
Yeah.
When you served on council, one of the one of the constant complaints, especially near the end of the last administration, was that there was a lack of communication between the administration and the council.
Sure.
I think that you've told me about some of the. Can you tell the people what you've been doing to?
Well,
mitigate those
I've been
issues?
trying to, you know, send just kind of updated emails
Right.
and stuff. You know, I don't really know everybody as well as others on this council, so I'm still trying to get to know them a little bit. You know, not a whole lot in the last couple of weeks, but I want to keep them updated as far as what's going on. I did make some phone calls, you know, I think it was last weekend or whatever, about a situation. So I can tell you this, being on council for 8 years, when you walked into a facility, you know, everybody knows I like to go to Flamingo for breakfast on the weekends and stuff. When I walk into Flamingo and I'm learning stuff from residents that I'm not even aware about, you know, and it could be a little, you know, alarming. So, you know, I'm trying to get communication out there with the council, you know, let them know kind of what's in the hopper and stuff like that. So, teamwork and communication, those are things that, I've been preaching since the day I walked in here, and council's part of the team. I need them to, I got to run my ideas by them, and they got to decide whether they think it's good for the community and if they want to pay it, if it's good that the city should spend money on. So I do want a working relationship with them. I want a good relationship with them. But I also know that we're not always going to agree, and I'm okay with that. I really am. Just because you vote no, I'm not. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I've been on council for 8 years. There's some that made me, that I lost, that made me shake my head for a day or two. But you got to move on because there's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly.
4 out of 7 people disagreed with you.
Right.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Speaking of money and spending money, Taylor School District passed a bond in the same election you were elected.
Yes.
And you're going to get a new high school out of this.
Yes.
Is this a game changer for Taylor?
I
and for
think
the public
so.
schools?
I think it's a great thing because you've probably seen the studies that when people are looking to move, some of the things that I think it's either the first or the second every time is the school district.
Right.
And being a huge supporter of Taylor schools, having gone through them all and love it, our buildings are old and outdated, and they need to be. And I was supportive of this bond, but I really didn't have a lot of confidence, to be honest with you.
I think a lot of people were that way.
So I think me and the school bond had a lot in common because, I think, there was quite a few out there that thought maybe it wasn't going to pass,
I hear you.
But I'm glad it did. I really am, and I've gotten to know Griff pretty good. Seems like a really good guy. The board's really seeming to gel down there well and work together, and like I said, even though we're separate, we can still work together. We just have to be careful, about staying in our lanes, and we can't spend city money on school. School can't, but to me, I think it's great if we can communicate and work together and help one another when we can, But I think it's going to be a great thing for Taylor. I really do, and I don't know if you've seen some of the pictures of this. It's awesome.
Yeah, it could be very, very, very nice.
I'm excited about it. Yeah, I really am.
Now that you're mayor, you get a lot of advice from people that you didn't expect to get advice from.
Well, my dad, Carl, but that ain't changed a lick, But no, to be honest with you, Carl, it's been really good. I mean, people have been very supportive of me, or congratulatory, I should say, when I walk in places and stuff, and hey, aren't you the new mayor and stuff like that. So it is flattering, and as you know, I still kind of. I'm humbled by that title, and it's awkward for me to, I was walking down the hall and somebody was saying, "Hey, Mayor," and it didn't pop in my head, and then finally I realized, but no, it's been really good, and some people, offer advice and stuff. I ran into former Mayor Petoniak about a week ago and stuff, and he's like, "Hey, if you got any questions, give me a call and stuff." Unfortunately, we lost Mayor Zub, but I got to know him really well over the 8 years and stuff, and me and Mayor Preby have a good relationship. So I think there's avenues that, but I have, confidants and stuff that I've met over time and stuff, but and Danny has always been my voice of reason, and that was one of the reasons why he was, everything is bounced off him, and he's such a great.
Well, he's a great guy in that particular issue, bouncing things off of, because he's going to give you.
And he thinks about, I'm pretty good at thinking all avenues, and he even takes it further, So, but no, everybody has been very good. And, I know there's a lot of people that I know that I could reach out to for specific questions and stuff like that.
Which is always the important thing.
Yeah. I ain't got nobody screaming at me yet.
I hear you.
At least in person.
It's early.
Few on Facebook, but
it's early in the administration.
Absolutely,
give it time. So, well, Mayor, I think that about ties up our first show here.
Okay.
Special thanks to our guests, Dan Bazura, our new Chief of Staff, and Ralph Richard, our new DPW Director. For Mayor Woolley, along with Joe Camilleri and Samantha Rickard at our control room, I'm Carl Zymak. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next Tim Woolley show, and happy holidays, sir.
You too, buddy.
All righty.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas
Merry
out there.
Christmas to Taylor.